Hey everybody, we're back. Episode 8, one and only Ivan, our pal. We just found out in the last section that Ivan does remember some parts of his past, and he was starting to tell a story of how he got to the mall after hearing Stella's story, Ruby's story. I think we're gonna find out how Ivan gets here. So I want to start by rereading the one sentence chapter on page 128, and that is, one day, a still day, when the hot air hummed, the humans came. I like how Catherine Applegate kind of helps us to understand what it felt like in the air that day. This chapter is called Vine. After they captured my sister and me, they put us in a cramped, dark crate that smelled of urine and fear. Somehow I knew that in order to live, I had to let my old life die. But my sister could not let go of our home. It held her like a vine, stretching across the miles, comforting, strangling. We were still in our crate when she looked at me without seeing, and I knew that the vine had finally snapped. The temporary human. It was Mac who pried open the crate, Mac who bought me, and Mac who raised me like a human baby. I wore diapers, I drank from a bottle, I slept in human beds, I sat in human chairs, and I listened while human words swarmed around me like angry bees. Do you remember what a sentence is called when it compares with like or as? It's a simile. The human words swarmed around me like angry bees. Can almost feel that, right? Mac had a wife back then. Helen was quick to laugh, but quick to anger too, especially when I broke something, which was often. Here is what I broke when I lived with Mac and Helen. 1 crib, 46 glasses, 7 lamps, 1 couch, 3 curtains, 3 shower curtain rods, 1 blender, 1 TV, 1 radio, and 3 toes. My own. I broke the blender when I squeezed 3 tubes of toothpaste and I forgot and the bottle of glue into it. I broke the blender when I squeezed 3 tubes of toothpaste and a bottle of glue into it. Sounds like something a toddler might want to do, right? I broke my toes attempting to swing from a lamp fixture on the ceiling. I broke 46 glasses. Well, it turns out there were way too many ways to break a glass. Every weekend, Mac and Helen took me into their convertible to a fast food restaurant, and they ordered me French fries and a strawberry shake. Mac loved to see the expression on the cashier's face when he drove up and said, "Can I have some extra ketchup for my kid?" It's kind of a funny part, right? To think about that and imagine what Mac's describing there, but how does it make you feel? Like a gorilla baby snatched from the rainforest and trying to live a human life? I went to baseball games, to the grocery store, to a movie theater, even to a circus. They didn't have a gorilla. I rode the little motorbike and blew the candles out of a birthday cake. My life as a human was a glamorous one, although my parents, traditional sorts, would not have approved. Hunger. In my new life as a human, I was well tended. I ate lettuce leaves with Thousand Island dressing and caramel apples and popcorn with butter. My belly ballooned. But hunger, like food, comes in many shapes and colors. At night, lying alone in my poo pajamas, meaning like Winnie the Pooh, I felt hungry for the skilled touch of a grooming friend, for the cheerful grunts of a play fight, for the easy safety of my nearby troop foraging through shadows. Remember what happened to Tag, I told myself. Don't think about the jungle. Still, sometimes I lie awake wishing for the warmth of another just like me, asleep in the night nest of a tender, oh, I love this sentence. I want to start again. Still, sometimes I lay awake wishing for the warmth of another just like me, asleep in a night nest of tender prayer plant leaves. I liked having sips of soda poured into my mouth like a bubbling waterfall, but every now and then I longed to search for a tender stalk of arrowroot, to feel the tease of a mango just out of reach. This chapter is called Still Life. One day, Helen came home with something large and flat wrapped in brown paper. Look what I bought today, she said excitedly as she tore off the paper. A painting to go over the living room couch. Fruit in a bowl, Max said with a shrug. Big deal. This is fine art. It's called a still life, Helen explained, and I think it's lovely. I dashed over to examine the painting, marveling at the colors and shapes. See, said Mac's wife, Ivan likes it. Ivan likes to roll up poop and throw it at squirrels, Max said. That was funny. I couldn't take my eyes off of the apples and bananas and grapes in the picture. They looked so real, so inviting, so edible. I reached out to touch a grape and Helen slapped my hand. Bad boy, Ivan, don't touch. She jerked her thumb at Mac. Honey, go get a hammer and a nail, would you? While Mac and Helen were busy in the living room, I wandered into the kitchen. A cake covered in thick chocolate frosting sat on the counter. I like cake, love it in fact, but it wasn't eating that I was thinking about. It was painting. The frosting peaked and dipped like waves on a tiny pond. It looked rich and gooey, dark and smooth. It looked like mud. I scooped up a handful of the frosting. I scooped up another. I headed to the refrigerator door. It was perfect, an empty white canvas waiting. The frosting wasn't easy to work with as my jungle mud. It was stickier, of course, and more tempting to eat. But I kept at it. I scraped off every little last bit of the frosting. I may have eaten a little cake too. I don't remember what I was trying to paint, a banana most likely. I suppose I knew I was going to get in trouble. But at that moment, I just didn't care. I wanted to make something, anything, the way I used to. I wanted to be an artist again. Punishment. We knew this was coming, right? I soon learned that humans can screech even louder than monkeys. After that, I was never allowed in the kitchen. Babies. Back in those days, the Big Top Mall was smaller. It had a pony ride, a wooden train that bustled around the parking lot, a few bedraggled parrots. Bedraggled. Does that word sound like those parrots are maybe young and well and taken care of? Bedraggled sounds like they're having struggles. And a surly spider monkey. Surly means kind of rude and sassy. But when Mac brought me, a baby gorilla dressed in a crisp tuxedo, to the mall, everything changed. People came from far and wide to have their pictures taken with me. They bought me blocks and a toy guitar. They held me in their laps. And once I even held a baby in mine. She was small and slippery. Bubbles flowed from her lips. She squeezed my fingers. Her legs bowed like bent twigs. I made a face. She made a face. I grunted. She grunted. I was so afraid she would fall that I squeezed her tightly, and her mother yanked her away. I wonder if my mother ever worried about dropping us. We always held on, but that's easier to do when your mother is furry. Human babies are an ugly lot. A lot means a group. But their eyes are like our babies' eyes. Too big for their faces and for the world. This chapter is called Beds. One day, after many weeks of loud talking, Helen packed a bag and slammed the front door and never came back. I don't know why. I never know the why of humans. I never know the why of humans. I've felt that before too. That night, I slept with Mac in his bed. My old nests were woven of leaves and sticks and shaped like his bathtub. Cool green cocoons. Mac's bed, like mine, was flat, hot, without sticks or stars. Still, he made a sleeping sound like the rumble my father used to make when all was well, a sound from deep inside his belly. My place. Mac grew sullen. Sullen means sad. I grew bigger. I became what I was meant to be. Too large for chairs, too strong for hugs, too big for human life. I tried to stay calm, to move with dignity. I did my best to eat daintily. That means carefully, right? But humans are always hard, but human ways are hard to learn, especially when you're not a human. When I saw my new domain, I was thrilled, and who wouldn't be? It had no furniture to break, no glasses to smash, no toilets to drop Mac's keys into. It even had a tire swing. I was relieved to have my own place. Somehow, I didn't realize I had been here quite so long. Now, I drink Pepsi and eat old apples and watch reruns on TV. Reruns are when shows play over and over again. But many days I forget what I'm supposed to be. Am I a human? Am I a gorilla? Humans have so many words, more than they truly need. Still, they have no name for what I am. "9,876 days. Ruby is finally asleep. I watch her chest rise and fall. Bob, too, is snoring, but my mind is still racing. For perhaps the first time ever, I've been remembering. It's an odd story to remember, I have to admit. My story has a strange shape, a stunted beginning, an endless middle. I count all the days I've lived with humans. Gorillas count as well as anyone, although it's not particularly useful skill to have in the wild. I've forgotten so many things, and yet I always know precisely how many days I've been in my domain. I take one of the magic markers that Julia gave me. I mark an X, a small one, on my painted jungle wall. I make more X's and more. I make an X for every day of my life with humans. My marks look like this. And the rest of the night I mark my days, and when I am done, my wall looks like this. He's marking all the days he's been there. And so on, until there are 9,876 X's marching across my wall like a parade of ugly insects. There's another simile. I want to read one more. This is called A Visit. It's almost morning when I hear steps. It's Mac. He has a sharp smell. He weaves as he walks. He stands next to my domain and his eyes are red. He's staring out at the window at the empty parking lot. "Ivan, my man," he mumbles. "Ivan." He presses his forehead against the glass. "We've been through a lot, you and me." So in that section, we got to know a lot more about how Ivan found himself at the roadside mall, and a bit about his childhood. Yeah, how does that help you to understand Ivan a little bit better as a character? Don't forget to write in your response journals. See you next time.